Hello and welcome to Deep Thought Shallow Plots. My name is Erika, and I really like to watch horror movies.
My name is Katy, and I really, gosh darn, like to overanalyze things.
You do.
What are we overanalyzing today?
Today we are overanalyzing the 2008 found footage film Cloverfield.
Yeah, our first found footage.
Our first found footage, and I also believe that this is meant to be to close out our hot
creature feature summer.
Our hot monster summer. No,
yeah, I don't remember.
Hot creature summer. Well,
Whatever.
I don't even know what it's called.
We don't know the bits we do.
So this movie is under 90 minutes long.
Snaps.
And it's a gift. Yeah. Flowers.
Snaps.
Flowers where flowers are due. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then I think also the idea is because it's a found footage, it's supposed to be roughly the length of what that type of video camera would be able to keep in a tape.
Right.
I don't remember exactly. They like have 83 minutes or whatever on that type of tape or whatever it is, you know?
So, yeah. That's
so they like try to aim for that.
Yeah. I was
which is cute.
Reading some stuff online about, of course, the parts that are hard to suspend your disbelief in, like the fact that HUD would just continue to film.
Honestly.
Under such duress.
That was one thing that made me really like HUD.
He had one job.
You know, and I kind of respected it.
Yeah.
It would have been so much easier for him to put the camera down and keep
and
running.
run.
But he even says it to Rob at some point about,
I have to document this.
Yeah, and I do think that's true, that there's like an importance to recording history.
Yep.
And even like mundane shit, there's kind of an importance to recording that. But this was obviously not mundane shit. Like, he was right. People are going to want to see this.
Yeah.
You know, and so he fucking did it.
Yeah.
I
and I think
Jason would not have kept that camera going.
No. Because he's a logical man. And that's why he dies first. I actually don't think that, but
he's the whore.
He does die first, right? Like a whore would. Anyway.
You know? Like a whore would. That's our next t-shirt.
Like a whore would.
Of all our t-shirts that we have in our merch store.
Yeah, right?
Like a whore would.
Oh my gosh. If we keep this, if this is going to be someone's first episode, they're going to be like, what the fuck are these women talking about? Like a whore would? What?
Yep.
Anyway, so our first found footage movie, which is great.
Should we give a quick little synopsis?
Absolutely. Do you want to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty basic. It's basically you're watching a Godzilla movie from the ground.
Well, yes, from the ground and also high up. Like sometimes we go up buildings, right?
That's true. That's true. But I mean, like, as like some random person who has no idea what's going on.
What is going on,
Like, dude on the ground just who has no idea what's going on. We never see the monster in full, really, in the way that you would in, like, a normal kaiju movie where it really is about the monster and what it's doing. Instead, we just get, like, glimpses, which are done really well, of just sort of like, what is that beast? Why is the ground shaking? What's happening with the electricity? And then there's just, like, through the explosions, you see, like, a tail whip by.
Right.
And it's like, oh my god, it's a monster. But it is just sort of like, it's not about battling the monster. It's about random people trying to get out of us, you know, try to save each other and get out of the city. That's all it is.
Survive, yeah. Yeah, which I really like. I think, towards the end, we do get some pretty full shots.
Yeah.
Of the kaiju, but it does, like, kind of, it builds, right? Like, you don't want to give everything away just yet, right? So we see the tail or whatever that is. I think it is the tail, but we don't know that.
When we first, see it, it looks more tentacle-like, so I don't like it.
It really does.
And that's we see that, and we see it again kind of later with the bridge scene.
Yeah, and we get to see, like, kind of one of the insectoid legs, like, hit the ground.
And then, like, eventually we do get, like you said, bird's eye views, but specifically from, like, news cameras. We see some news reports where we can kind of see the creature from above sort of moving through the city, but it's, like, obscured by explosions and, like, the buildings are just tall.
Yeah. And, there's explosions, so there's a lot of smoke, and it's a mess.
It's chaotic,
So, I do like this movie. I have seen the entire trilogy at this point.
I have not.
And normally when we cover a movie that has a sequel, I might
refresh.
I might refresh and but I actually think 10 Cloverfield Lane is a movie we could cover. So like I haven't done that. Don't have any like report because it's all
every time we've talked about Cloverfield, you've been like, but 10 Cloverfield Lane.
10 Cloverfield Lane is really really
like,
good.
You clearly like
and
it more.
at this point, I've only seen Cloverfield Paradox once, but I did really like it when I saw it.
I randomly almost watched it just because it has Gugu Mbatha-Raw in it. I really like her.
Right? Yeah.
But I didn't know anything about the Cloverfield world, so I was like,
well, that's the great...
all the movies are so disconnected.
Yeah, that's the
it's
great
more like a
thing about the trilogy.
Yeah, I saw people calling it the Cloververse, and I'm like, why do you not call it the Cloverse? It's right there.
The Cloverse. I know.
It should
Come
be
on,
the
guys.
Cloverse.
Work smarter, not harder. Come on, yeah. The Cloverse for sure.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
yeah,
they're
it's
all
all
just
in
sort
the
of like-
same reality or like sets of reality.
Yeah.
So, well, I think also
but they aren't plot related.
I have a really big soft spot in my heart for John Goodman. I really love John Goodman. And he's, spoiler, the bad guy in this. And, like, when John Goodman gets to be a bad guy, like, oh.
Everybody stand back and watch.
Yeah, just breathe it in. Okay.
Yeah.
And
I honestly just prefer movies where humans are the bad guys too when it's monsters.
Yeah, but
I like monsters. I don't want them to be bad guys.
I know, yeah.
That is the main theme, I think, of Hot Creature Summer, is that every single time I've been like, just leave the monster alone.
So with Jaws, yes.
Yeah.
In El Laberinto del Fauno.
Yeah. The monsters, I guess, is a
bugging
little different.
Her.
Yeah, that was a little
Ophelia.
different. But I would say the monsters are not the villains in that film.
No, definitely not. And in this one, well, the thing is that the monster is attacking Manhattan.
Yeah.
Suboptimal.
And these people have time to just walk away, but they did not walk away.
Right.
And when we finally do see its face at the end, when it, eats HUD by just like tearing his body in half by eating it, which is like a classic
so good.
Jurassic Park Lost World, the two dinosaurs eating that guy in half, like love it. And his little face is so cute. I love the monster's face.
Yeah.
It looks like a bat. It's adorable.
Yeah, like a certain kind of, because there's a gazillion kinds of bats, but yeah, there's like that certain kind of bat like that. Yeah. It's interesting because I was reading about the creature design, and it seemed like there was obviously a lot of like inspiration from insects.
Yeah. Insects. And I know it's supposed to be amphibious because it's like in the water and the land and can survive on both. There's
a couple of pretty good horror moments that I really like. I understand that it is a reference from Escape to New York, and it's also also giving a like Planet of the Apes allusion.
Yeah.
But like the image of the head of the Statue of Liberty, like with the spiky crown, all like bent out of shape, like that's pretty powerful.
Right. Yeah.
That's pretty good. And I think, let's just say it now and then let's not talk about it anymore, that like I was definitely getting like 9/11 vibes.
Right.
Watching this movie.
Yes. Yeah, I saw a few reviews like from when it first came out where some people were even like, it's awfully tasteless to be using 9/11 imagery in this film.
Right, to have Manhattan under attack like that, yeah.
And it's like these tall buildings you can watch them get exploded or whatever.
And falling down, yeah. I totally got that. And actually, did you catch this, that like as the shit goes down at the party and they leave the party, you can hear one of the party goers as she's running down the stairs, she says, "Is this another terrorist attack?"
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I think like... I mean, obviously, the people who made this movie, which we'll talk a little bit about later, right? So kind of the script is written by Drew Goddard, who also wrote the movie from our
first inaugural episode.
Our flagship episode, right?
Cabin in the Woods. He was the co-writer.
So that's why we're going to play Archetypes later. And then
J.J. Abrams
produced it.
And came up with the original idea, I guess.
And directed by Matt Reeves, right? So I think these three gentlemen are smart enough to understand that this movie this movie was released in 2008, so obviously it's being worked on for even a couple years before that. So like 2008 is not super far removed from 2001,
but also far enough that like there have been lots of times when buildings have fallen down. I don't know. Like, are we just never allowed to use New York in a disaster film?
Right, yeah. Like, are we really not allowed to use like the most populated city in the United States and like what is like a huge symbol of America,
right?
Like in general, you know.
And it just sort of seems. Did you look into sort of like the initial rollout of the film with like the trailers that first came out?
How they viral marketing for sure.
How they put it out with like they didn't even say what the movie was called and stuff. But I did see something about where they were specifically like the creators behind it were like, we wanted to be very careful and obvious about the fact that there were, even though we didn't show the monster, there were people saying things like, "What is that thing?" and like, "What kind of monster?" You know, like things that made it clear there was some sort of creature attack happening, just to make it really clear that it was like, this is not terrorism.
No, it's
don't think of 9/11.
It's fantasy. Yeah.
We swear it's monsters.
Don't think of 9/11, but you'll have really no choice but to think about
but you'll do it. We swear we're not referencing it.
I guess maybe that's depending on how old you are, right?
Yeah.
Because
I honestly
the kids these days, I don't know.
didn't think of 9/11
Really?
while
Okay.
watching it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know that was supposed to be a formative thing for me as a millennial, but
We were quite young.
yeah, and the imagery never stuck with me because I think I shielded myself from it. I didn't look at a bunch of it.
Good.
You know?
Yeah. I remember, well, first of all, we went to school that
know,
day,
yeah.
which was stupid. And
I know.
my parents went to work.
Yeah. No, I remember the teacher showing us the newspaper
Yes.
about it.
Yeah, and
with the big words
in
written on it.
in my classroom, my teacher turned on the fucking news.
Oh, we did not do that.
And we just we watched it for a couple of hours. And this was the aftermath. The towers had come down, so it was the aftermath, and there's so much chaos and uncertainty. And why did my teacher do that?
Yeah, that's crazy.
I don't blame her though.
I understood.
That's
because she would want to
unprecedented shit.
How do you know how to do that? Yeah,
with my students. Yeah.
And she was trying to use it as a teaching moment of when big events happen, the newspaper will often have these big bold things. I think she was trying to explain what happened to us in a way that we children's could understand.
Yeah,
but
because we were 9.
Yeah.
Anyway, so also,
I didn't think of it.
Also, it's worth giving roses to one scene that I think is really effective horror wise. Do you know what I'm gonna say?
I mean, I know which one was the most effective for me.
Oh, what was the most effective for you?
This is a bit of a left turn, but the phone call from Mom.
Oh God!
A different kind of horror.
Yes.
A different kind of horror.
Oh yeah.
But when they're in the subway
That
and
hit
Rob
hard.
gets the call from his mom,
Yeah.
and first off, he has to be I'm still in this city that is under attack.
Yeah.
And it's unclear how much the news is telling people exactly about what's going on,
Right,
you know,
yeah.
and if people are getting out. So A, here's your one son still in danger.
Oh, and second of
B,
all,
I need to tell you that I just watched my brother die.
Yeah.
You only have one son now.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And just the quiet moment we get, because HUD's kind of far away, and I think Lily goes over to comfort Rob.
Sure, yeah.
So we just sort of see Rob and Lily kind of far away, kind of comforting each other and crying into each other's arms.
Yeah.
Over Jason's death. And I'm just that part, honestly, I don't know. I guess because that was a realism horror moment of
Right.
yes, that's a crazy monster, but in an actual disaster, that is such a real thing.
Yeah.
That I was no, Mama.
Yeah, that poor mom. Yeah.
But then the bridge.
Oh, and then also when the bridge collapses.
Yeah, that's my other big one.
Again, because what we end up kind of understanding to be sort of a tail.
Yeah.
Appendage for the monster. It really does.
Yeah.
In that scene, it looks like a tentacle of some kind.
No, see, I said when we were watching, I was okay, so these goddamn people know from the news broadcast and stuff that an oil tanker went down in the fucking Hudson.
We know that.
And they're going across a bridge right now. You could not pay me to walk across any body of water.
But see, here's the thing, Katie.
There's no other way off the island.
Manhattan's an island.
No, man. I'm going under the tunnels. I don't know. Are there tunnels out of Manhattan?
Subway. Sure.
Yeah.
Take the subway out of Manhattan.
There are bridges. I don't know. I'm not going above water because literally that imagery we get. I've never seen this movie before.
Yes.
But that is literally the imagery that I get in my head each time we drive across a bridge or whatever over water. I see giant tentacle sea beast reaching up and just smashing everything apart.
Yes.
So
so it's a no for you.
Yeah, just a great example of horror movies letting us experience our real life fears in a safe environment.
Yes.
But no, I was just ugh.
That's close to mine. I think it's just worth, obviously, as a horror connoisseur.
Yeah.
I would dare to call myself.
Yes.
You see it all the time, but it's still so effective. When they're in the tunnels, and it's pitch black, and they're there's a night vision thing on the camera, and they turn it on, and the camera's kind of lower to the ground, looking up, and then you can see what I think is confirmed to supposed to be parasitic lice.
Yeah,
I think
sort of parasitic.
First time I saw it, I thought it was oh, it's its babies.
That was my first thought. I was did it just hatch a bunch of babies? What is happening?
No, they're just going at it.
But then the more we saw them, the more I was no.
They're very different. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we understand to be parasitic lice, and they're kind of up on the ceiling of the subway tunnel, and then they have to run. And
I will
then
say
Marlena gets bit, and
that it scared me more when they did it in The Descent. Because we had the same thing with the night vision and then the little creepy guy.
Right.
The caveman guy.
Is that because of the more humanoid quality of that crawler versus the parasitic lice, or?
Maybe. I think part of it, though, actually, I know what it was. Okay. It's that in The Descent, it's a full half of the movie before we, really get anything with those goddamn creatures.
Right.
Caveman things.
Listen to our Descent
and,
episode.
I was just going along like, this is a great movie about like interpersonal relationships and like survival against nature. I was like in it that I'd like kind of forgotten what movie I was watching. So I was like extra jump scared by it.
Yeah. You're like, I forgot this was part of it. Yeah.
Plus, I think that movie more relies on jump scares. So like my body was already in kind of a jumpy place from like a bunch of other previous jump scares. This movie doesn't really have... Does it have jump scares?
No.
Other than, I guess, maybe that one.
Other than
like,
that
don't
one.
really see it. I can't think of any. So, like, my body wasn't primed for it. And I also already knew that there were little creepy crawlies.
Right.
Because they had been... Did we see them?
We do see them before that happens, yes.
Or at least we definitely hear about them.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And we saw all the rats running away.
That's
so I was already
our harbinger.
ready. I was like, oh, the rats are running away. There's creatures in the tunnel. Yeah. Okay.
And it's so funny because, like, the characters in the tunnel are like, ew, rats! I'm like, are you kidding me right now?
I know. Literally, priorities.
Yeah.
The rats are gross. I do have one last general thought.
Okay.
Which is that I hate to get Lovecraftian because we know how I feel about Lovecraft.
Yeah.
But, like, there is something about, like, the way that this movie shows us the monster, like, through the found footage and through, like, these people that we kind of got to know as just, like, ordinary folks.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something about the realism of it, I guess, quote unquote, which I guess you can talk about a bit with our found footage part.
Absolutely.
The realism of it that makes it, like, how just fucking massive and like unexplainable a monster like that suddenly appearing in your city. Like, I've never really thought about that with Godzilla because like we all kind of just know about Godzilla,
right? Godzilla's older than us. Like, I've never lived in a world without a Godzilla.
I definitely had a moment looking at that thinking about like, that sort of Lovecraftian horror of like seeing this huge unknowable monstrous thing and then like immediately going insane.
Yeah,
I get it. Like, I'm honestly surprised there wasn't more chaos in the streets in this movie, or like people just catatonic. Because like, what would you do in the face of something like that?
Kind of, I think what ends up happening with Marlena. I can't wait to talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
But can I set the stage here with the found footage here? So again, first found footage film we're covering. Ooh, that was fun to say. First found footage film. And it's just, again, kind of unfamiliar territory for us. So, well, more for you.
I don't really watch found footage because that scares me.
Yeah. So I'm going to fill you in, and of course I
feel like my impression of found footage, if I may say this as a lay person, is that it tends towards the like paranormal.
Yeah.
And I hate paranormal. Well, I don't hate it. I'm terrified of paranormal horror movies. So I think that's why I've like kind of avoided found footage. Like, it'll be hard to get me to do a Blair Witch, you know?
Well, hot take. I think the Blair Witch Project is boring as fuck. Yeah. I don't care who knows it. And I also don't think it really matters that I don't think it's that good. It's very highly critically acclaimed, you know?
Yeah.
So, hey, did you know this, Katie, that found footage films, like as a genre, have roots in literature?
Oh, as in epistolary novels?
Yes, epistolary techniques, which are iconically used in very important horror text.
Dracula.
Frankenstein. And you mentioned him earlier.
Lovecraft, does he do it?
Call of Cthulhu is
I've never
epistolary. Yeah.
I don't read Lovecraft, so I didn't realize.
I have you know what? I have to say I've never read Lovecraft, but I have listened to Lovecraft audiobooks.
I think you mentioned that.
And wow, it's hard to follow.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like a lot of language, so I'm like, what are you even saying? So we have some roots in literature, mini literary corner. But found footage, like in horror films, goes back to this movie Cannibal Holocaust, which is an amazing name for a horror movie. It's an Italian horror film from 1980, which the conceit is that a professor is in the Amazon rainforest, and he stumbles upon a lost film shot by a documentary crew that has gone missing.
Right.
And so I'm going to just be upfront. I have never seen Cannibal Holocaust, and it's actually not on my list.
Yeah.
Because it being from the 1980s. And I'm not sure if it was filmed in Hawaii or like where they filmed it, but like there's a lot of animal deaths in that movie, and they're real. Like they killed that animal. Yeah.
I remember hearing about that in terms of... Not to drop another podcast during our podcast. Yeah. I want to say it was a year wrong about snuff films.
Yes.
They mention it as like a quote unquote snuff film.
Yes, because one of the actresses in that film her character dies, and her death was so realistic that like she had to show up in court to be like, I am not dead.
I am alive.
It was a movie.
The animals were killed, but I am okay.
Yes. So there's a lot of.
I remember that film because there's a lot of like.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes story around it, I guess.
So the like, I'm just not into that. There's so many other wonderful horror movies. Like, I don't think that's something I really need to see. But Cannibal Holocaust is considered a classic horror film.
I mean, found footage to the extent that it made people think that one of the actors actually died is like, which is true of the Blair Witch Project too, kind of, right?
Yeah. So Cannibal Holocaust is like the first one. And then like, they're pretty sparse here and there, but it is the Blair Witch Project in 99 that just like really kicks off found the interest in found footage, but also I mean it's worth noting that Blair Witch Project comes out in 99, which is also when like handheld video technology is becoming more and more accessible to more people.
So it makes it a little bit easier to do a found footage thing because otherwise you don't need the conceit of like it's a documentary.
Why would they have a camera?
Like, how do they own that camera?
Yes, exactly. With those things mentioned, found footage, especially in horror, gains a lot of popularity like through the aughts and the teens.
Yeah,
right?
and I can imagine the Blair Witch Project making it popular probably had a lot to do with how they went above and beyond with its like viral marketing, which is something that Cloverfield also does.
Which was
like, before the movie comes out.
Right, which for the Blair Witch Project was super smart, and like we didn't call it viral marketing then.
Right, yeah.
Right.
Because it was like so in the forefront or
Yeah.
like whatever you would say.
The
same thing about like those actors had to like basically pretend that they actually disappeared.
Yeah. The genre is gaining a lot of popularity through the aughts and the teens. We've got Rec, which is a really great Spanish movie.
Oh.
And then they remade it, an English language version called Quarantine. It's the same thing, but they have different names. Paranormal Activity, duh. Like that's probably when you're thinking of the paranormal aspects.
Yeah.
Like the fact is that there's like 6 or 7 paranormal activities. So yeah,
and they're all found footage.
They're all found footage.
So that is probably my association. That plus, even though it's not found footage, The Ring. Just because that's like my other mind association for like video cameras and TV things, you know?
And the paranormal.
Yeah. That I think my mind is just sort of like anything with like video cameras is ghosts, and I don't want that.
We also have a really great Australian film called Lake Mungo. That's a good one. We have a kind of an anthology series called VHS, which are kind of vignettes of found footage. You know,
that's cute.
I love the VHS franchise. Another found footage movie I really love is called As Above, So Below, where this team goes into the Paris catacombs and may or may not stumble upon a doorway to hell.
And at this point, these are all like VHSs or like handheld cameras sort of happening.
Right. Oh, like the way that they're explaining why this is being recorded. Yeah. And As Above, So Below, they're like spelunking, so they have cameras attached to their helmets. Yeah.
The original GoPros.
Like Mungo is meant to be like a mockumentary style. Cloverfield, duh. And also The Last Exorcism, which when I saw it, it was the scariest movie I'd ever seen.
This is part of the Exorcist franchise? No, this is an unrelated
separate.
Exorcism.
No, not related to the Exorcist whatsoever. It's called The Last Exorcism.
Sounds like paranormal shit.
It is.
I don't want to get involved with.
At the time, it was the scariest movie I'd ever seen because the ending is very distressing, which I actually like in a horror movie. I don't want necessarily a happy ending.
Yeah, you don't want that.
And I think what really got me with The Last Exorcism specifically is there is a scene where the camera itself becomes the weapon.
Ooh,
yeah,
and
that really like
I like when
me up.
I like when found footage uses the feature of the camera, like with the night vision thing.
Right. Yeah,
uses the idea that this is a camera.
It's a tool. Let's use it.
Yeah, it's a physical object in the world. Let's interact with it.
Yeah,
you know.
So big popularity. So let me just run down the tropes. Different ways found footage movies can exist, right? So we get the mockumentary style, right?
Yeah.
So usually that'll include like interviews, right? Mm-hmm. And the camera work's going to look more professional than like a shaky cam, which we get in Cloverfield a lot, right?
To the point where they had to put up those signs about like
a complaint for a lot of people. Yes.
You may experience motion sickness.
Yeah.
If you need to throw up, bathrooms are located.
Do it in the bathroom. So it's kind of presenting the film as having been recorded as a more formal document of an event.
In the conceit of a documentary, does that mean that later somebody put it together into documentary form?
Let me finish.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Because that is a problem with, like, when you think about Dracula being this epistolary novel where it's a bunch of letters and journal entries that aren't in, like, they were put in a specific order, and there are sort of some clues that some parts were not included, and there is you know, an actual explicit mention at the end. There's like a little epilogue where it's like, yeah, John and Mina put this together.
Oh, okay.
You know,
that's nice.
So like there would have to be something like that if you're going to have a documentary,
right? So yeah, the mockumentary is like more of a formal document, so it kind of, it also helps for like a narrative reason for why the story is being recorded, right?
Yeah.
And it also is super helpful for making sure that you can fit in expository dialogue.
Yeah, because you can cut to an interview like, so right now we're...
Right. But in order for it to be a true found footage film, it needs to be presented as if the footage was lost and then rediscovered by another party, right?
Right.
So this is what happens in The Last Exorcism. It's not being presented as intended by the quote-unquote documentary filmmakers, right? Probably because they died horrible deaths, right?
Yeah, one can assume.
This is what happens in Cloverfield, right? We get those
The
first...
little part thing, at the beginning. That's
those
like,
opening shots of the title cards, right?
yeah,
that
where it's like the military...
This footage has been confiscated and is property of the U.S. government.
Yeah.
And then we learn...
Cloverfield.
And yeah,
whatever.
it says... what is it? It says... Special, no.
It calls it the designation Cloverfield, the area formerly referred
known as Manhattan.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
I just remember the formerly referred to, or like formerly known as Manhattan.
Yeah, so there's a couple of different ways to like justify different footage within a found footage movie, right? We get the shaky cam, handheld, first person experience like we see in Cloverfield.
And you were right in saying that maybe it does question the reality of it, because it is kind of like, well, put it fucking down.
Yeah, right?
What are you doing? You're in this crisis right now, you know? But I don't know. I could see holding on to it.
Right. Well, and then what the shaky cam does, which is super helpful, especially in horror, is that, like, you know, it's continually and unpredictably moving the camera, so it kind of like disorients the audience, right? And the audience is like, well, what is just off frame?
Yeah.
Right? Is it a crawler, like in The Descent, right?
Yeah.
Is it a parasitic lice, right?
Right there up on the ceiling.
Also, notably, this is a great way to bring down production costs.
Yeah.
Which is often a concern when creating a horror movie.
Yeah.
Another thing we can do, which this reminds me of The Purge, using surveillance footage.
Yeah, we do
or
get
like
those great
news
shots.
footage or anything like that.
Yeah. Those are some of my favorite parts of the Purge franchise.
That's great because the camera can stay like static.
Yeah.
And events can like happen kind of like the movement can have, the camera can stay still, but we can still get that movement, right? It also, that would make sense why something is being recorded, like if it's a surveillance camera or
security.
That's, again, what I like about the Paranormal Activity franchise, that like each movie they have I think a relatively believable reason to have cameras up in their house, right?
Oh yeah. Either as security or baby cam. Especially the more into the present day we get, where there's just so much more technology.
Right, and so much more CCTV.
Yeah,
like
there's just ring cams.
More of our life is being recorded.
And
yeah. So using like the surveillance or news footage, right, it allows like a filmmaker to separate the camera from the perspective of a character in the story, right? Kind of becomes a little bit more neutral.
Omniscient narrator.
Yeah, and it allows characters to like appear together in shots. And it also justifies like why something would be filmed when there's no character present, which is again a really big part of Paranormal Activity. There's a lot of like nobody's there, right?
Oh, but something creepy happens.
Something creepy is happening, right?
Oh, I hate that shit.
I'm sorry. We won't ever watch it. It's okay. So news footage. I also forgot one other aspect, which is becoming increasingly popular now because of, the way technology is growing, which is, it's called screen life.
I was wondering about like Zoom and
following events on a computer screen, that's not relevant to this film, but there's a ton. Like, there was one.
Oh, we watched that one that was like a John Cho flick for some reason.
Did we watch that together?
Yeah.
I thought I watched that by myself.
No,
yeah.
I was there for some reason.
Missing or Searching.
Something
they're
like that.
two different movies. They're effectively the same movie. One is a dad looking for his kid. One is a kid looking for her mom. But like it's the same movie,
Yeah.
Screen
We watched
Life.
the sad dad one.
Oh, the sad dad one. There's a like.
And it was just him clicking around on the computer
Yeah.
and like making phone call or like video calls.
Yeah. Unfriended is a good one.
That's all like.
Host is good.
Yeah.
So these are all examples of found footage.
It completely makes sense that we would have those fan footage, especially coming out of quarantine, where we all just felt like we were in horror movies
Just
on our fucking Zoom screens.
And on Zoom all the time.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to go over super quick. Basically, like the top 4 purposes found footage serves.
Okay,
right?
cool. I love that.
So first one, cheap. Right, I already mentioned it.
Yes.
Popular found footage movies, they will often have well over a 1 to 20 budget to gross ratio.
Yeah.
It is they can if it is a popular one like the Blair Witch Project, right? Paranormal Activity, it doesn't cost a lot of money to make, and you will make a lot of money back, right? Again, like I mentioned this earlier as well, like it kind of gives the audience a sense of authenticity and immediacy. Like it kind of gets you into the action.
I wondered about that one, if I can cut in for a moment.
Please do.
Because...
Don't say what I'm about to say.
No, it's specifically related to that, which is that there was an initial moment in the party where we kind of got like a quote-unquote inside look at how like men talk to each other when they're alone.
That was fascinating.
But I also kind of like... Part of me was like, is the dialogue in this movie not very good? Like, I wasn't believing it. And then I was like, or am I just expecting a higher level of realism because it's found footage that, like, my subconscious is like, this feels like some sort of uncanny valley of, like, I feel like this should be real, but it's not real.
Is that how they talk? Yeah.
Yeah, so my mind kind of, like, shorted for a second before I got into the flow of the film.
Right,
but, like...
Yeah, that's a really good point. And actually, that scene is really interesting to me. I can't wait to talk more about it. So it basically, like, it's a great way to get the audience involved. Like, it feels more real.
Yeah.
Like, more real
and
is more
kind
scary.
Of like, you feel like you are there more.
Yeah, it kind of gets you. And it kind of blurs that line between what is fiction and what is reality, right? Especially, like, when we have such, like, what to me are really realistic characters, you know?
Yeah.
Also, I think it's worth noting, this is very true for movies in general, but especially for horror movies, is that, like, the act of watching a movie or, like, this footage that was somebody else's, like, really taps into, like, our tendencies towards voyeurism.
Right, yeah. It's a voyeuristic. We've talked about that before.
Yes,
I think about, like, the voyeurism and horror of, like, the delight in seeing... especially certain types of bodies getting destroyed.
Yes, and
tortured.
like the way that in a slasher, like we, the camera will be from the killer's perspective, and like we are the killer, right? Yeah. So we get to engage in our little inherent enjoyment of our voyeuristic tendencies, right?
But also in this one, at least, and the other ones with the shaky cams and like the documentaries, we also get kind of like a we don't have to feel guilty for our voyeurism because it's like somebody made this for us to look at.
For me to look at,
you know?
yeah.
Which is true of all movies.
Yeah.
But in this case, it's like HUD was videotaping this because he knew people wanted to see it.
Yes.
I must look.
So
for HUD.
So the found footage movie like really turns what I read like a Medium article that like they said found footage movies turn this fetish into overdrive, like this fetish for voyeurism. And then I read a really interesting analysis of this movie. I told you about it that refers to this movie as an intimate apocalypse.
Oh, yeah.
Right, and I feel like that really helps with
That's a really good phrasing.
That is a great way to put it, yeah. And then last but, never least, is that when we have found footage, especially if we're doing a shaky cam kind of thing, we do get a greater connection to characters.
Yeah.
And character development, like, at least for me, gives me much more buy-in into a film.
Yeah, I feel like we really see their fear.
Yeah. And then again, kind of like through the voyeurism, like, we connect especially to the one holding the camera, who is HUD in this case. Like, the audience is the camera.
Yeah.
And, like, the camera holder.
Being cradled by HUD.
Yeah, like, we are the camera holder, and, like, the camera holder is us.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a nice kind of the way humans... we really do thrive having connections to other people.
Yeah.
This is a way to kind of,
immediately
in a synthetic way, to do it. Yeah.
I do think there was something especially I don't know, shocking or something about seeing HUD in front of the camera in the moment of his death.
That was crazy.
You know,
Yeah.
like it does feel a little more like HUD's not supposed to be there.
Yeah.
That's not where HUD belongs.
Yeah.
He can't just die. he's the cameraman.
He's busy. Yeah. So that's my corner.
I do think one thing that I was thinking about with fan footage, that was really cool. I didn't know any of that. I think what I was thinking a lot about fan footage is that it does make us feel like we're getting like this completely accurate account of events.
Right.
Because we are seeing it on camera.
It's a primary source.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I was also thinking about how like, but that's actually not true, because even in the mythos of the world, it's like there are moments when HUD isn't looking through the camera. He just kind of has it down on his side. So
Right,
we can't see a lot, or even moments where it just completely cuts off.
Yep.
And we don't know what's happening. And then I was also just thinking about the fact that like, because our main characters who are videotaping it are like on the ground, like I said, like it's sort of unclear at first, like what's going on, and like information comes out really slowly because of that medium.
Yeah.
So even though it seems like we're getting really accurate stuff, it's like, well, yeah, but we're getting it from these people who don't know shit.
Yeah,
so
nobody
we're
knows
getting
anything.
An earthquake or what, an earth tremor, and then like the lights flickering, and then only later, after like the Statue of Liberty comes to rolling by, then we see a little bit of the tale. And I thought that was really interesting, just in terms of thinking about like how the information is being kept from the public. And I sort of did wonder about like, the news in Manhattan is like, this is the creature. I wonder how much of that news is getting out further than that.
Right.
And like, obviously mom heard something to call. Yeah. But like, what are they hearing? What are they hearing about? We hear like the military people kind of are like, by the way, we're going to do our hammer down, quote unquote, protocol. Get out of the fucking city. Yeah. You know?
Last
and like,
chopper leaves at 0600.
Yeah. And it's like, are they telling other people that? Like, is that something the public knows?
Yeah.
Like, and even like when the first time we see cops and other people of authority, they're just sort of like, okay, if you aren't hurt, go that way. Towards the bridge. If you are hurt, here's the EMTs. Yeah. And the people are there like, but what is that fucking thing? And the cops are like, not my pay grade. Not go that way or that way.
Not my business right now. Are you hurt or not?
Yeah. And it's just a really cool way to do it, because it's like we, the audience, don't get to know what the monster is, and it could be kind of frustrating that we don't really know what the monster is,
right? It
or
can
like
feel
what it is, or like what the military is doing. But it's like also really cool that like, in that realism way, like we don't even really know what happens to Jason and Marlena and Lily. Like, the only death we actually see is HUD's.
It's HUD's, yeah.
We see Marlena's through, like, a little curtain. So, like, but we don't know exactly how that happened. Yeah, like, some sort of parasite thing there. Yeah. Like, what? Lily just goes away in a helicopter and is never seen again.
Well, that helicopter goes down.
Not the one she's in. We don't see that. We don't see it. We only see the helicopter that they're all in go down.
Oh, so
Lily's in the other one.
A universe in which Lily is alive.
Maybe.
No, but another helicopter gets taken down.
I didn't see that.
Okay.
Maybe it did.
That should be our headcanon. Lily is still alive.
I mean, I don't know. For that matter, Jason could still be alive. I don't know how he could be, but we did not see a body.
That's true. No body doesn't count.
Yeah.
This body, or it didn't happen. This movie does really leave a lot of questions unanswered, which I actually does think really works in its favor.
Yeah.
Because this is the thing, is that I feel that frustration too. Like, oh, tell me, like, give me a backstory.
But we know shit about Godzilla. We know what the military is planning to do about Godzilla. Yeah. You know, we have like theories about where it came from. You know, this one, it's just like HUD being like, well, there was that fish that was found in Madagascar.
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like some random guy's theories. We don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it works, but for me, I get frustrated when I want to know more. Like, I want a backstory that a movie is not giving me. But often when like a movie does give me that, I'm disappointed. Yeah. I'm like, is that the best we could do?
Yeah, like that's what you
I could think of something better right now. You know? Yeah. So I think that works too. It's So like, for instance, like, do Rob and Beth survive? My money's on no.
I don't think so.
No,
but
we don't know.
But we don't see their death either. That's a good
Lily?
point. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
What are the origins of this monster? There's like a lot of ideas online, but nothing super concrete.
Well, and that's the other thing about this, is that there's like a lot of, because of that like viral marketing thing, where they were like, apparently they set up MySpace pages for the characters, including characters that were just sort of seen in the background at the party.
Yes.
We had like footage that they were putting up and shit.
Yeah.
And there's like Slusho brand soda or whatever the fuck it is. Yes. And like the Japanese company that is the one that Rob's going to work for, or that's an unrelated Japanese company?
I see. This is the thing. I have no idea what is like a fan theory and what is like something that has been corroborated by the filmmakers.
They also made a manga, but I guess the manga, even though it was made as part of the viral marketing, isn't necessarily canon.
It's not canon. Okay,
you know, so it's like having all of that surrounding stuff from other sources like video games and whatever else, and like looking at their MySpace pages or whatever does kind of like reward you based on the level of engagement you want to give into it, which is kind of cool. Like you could get super deep on it and learn all of the like theories and what is available from like the creators and what is fan theories, but also like if you don't want to get into that degree of the lore, you can also just watch the movie and just be like,
and just
dude,
like, crazy fucking monster,
crazy fucking monster. I got my own ideas, but who knows?
Should we talk about the monster?
Yeah.
You wrote in the outline, I literally just have so many questions.
Okay, well, yes.
Lay them on me.
Some of the questions I ended up answering by reading the Wikipedia page.
By Googling it, reading Wikipedia.
Okay, so the monster is apparently called Clover. Is this true? Yay, nay?
That is one
or is
understanding.
that just a fan name for it? Okay.
Again, I don't know. Again, I do not know what is like corroborated canon and what is like a fan theory from the internet. Let's call her Clover.
Okay. A lady.
Why not?
Okay.
Generic feminine.
Well, especially since like, that was my initial question was like, are those babies? What are these little things?
Is this a girl monster?
Yeah. And then I was like, wait, but those things are clearly like venomous. They like infected Marlena with something. So then I was like, is that big crazy monster venomous too? That's awfully big to be a venomous monster.
Right.
And then I was like, or is it some sort of symbiotic thing, which I think is what it was.
So how is it symbiotic? Like what does Clover gain from having those parasitic lice?
Something about the thing that I saw from the guy I didn't write down his name. The guy who like came up with the creature design, the like biology behind it, when J.J. Abrams was like, we're making a monster movie. I need a kaiju.
I need a monster.
Go.
Design artist Neville Page.
That sounds right. Neville Page. I will believe that. We will say that. He said something about how the creature is covered in parasites, which it sheds as part of its post-birth process. Post-birth process. And I was like, well, no, I have more questions.
Yeah.
What?
I have 42 new questions and no goddamn answers.
I was like, so it was in an egg or something? And then like it hatched with these parasites that were like maybe, you know, sometimes creatures have symbiotes that sort of help eat away the like the shell or whatever.
When it hatches or is
it leaves behind all that amniotic
born.
whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's like some sort of those parasites.
Okay.
That somehow got shed.
I read, and I cannot remember where. Sorry.
Because there's tons of things about it everywhere.
Yeah. I read, and this is something that I really like and explains kind of what happens to Marlena.
Yeah.
Is that they're parasitic lice that have developed some kind of enzyme or venom that breaks capillaries.
Ooh.
But so that they can get the blood, right?
Right, yeah.
But on Clover, it's this massive creature, so even a massive parasitic lice could like break a capillary, take some blood, and the creature would not be affected.
Right.
Whereas if
lice on a dog,
yeah,
it's not going to automatically kill a dog.
Yeah.
You know.
But if that kind of lice were to bite a human, let's say, then it could bust like all the capillaries in their body.
Right.
Which is what I
seem to be.
Which is I think is what happens to Marlena.
Because what we do see of it is like blood coming out of different orifices,
Her
I
eyes,
guess.
yeah. At the very least, which is bad. You don't want blood coming out of your eyes.
And then we kind of see her explode from the inside.
I love it, by the way. Yeah.
And we do see before that happens, they have some like soldier or something wheeling by who's just like the bottom half of body and like the whole top half is sort of like exploded open.
Yes, his like whole torso and chest are completely
and somebody in the background is like another bite or something. So like we know what's about to happen to Marlena before it happens.
This is why among many other reasons is why I am a huge proponent of subtitles.
Oh yeah.
During a movie.
I know, because you get all the little background check.
Yeah, sometimes stuff will come up and you're like, I didn't know anything was being said then, or like, oh shit, that's what they're saying.
Yeah.
Huge proponent.
So that was one of my questions, was like, what the fuck were those things?
Yeah.
Because it was like, are these little babies? They don't make sense as little babies.
Yeah.
What? And then and then I actually did wonder also, which I saw some people on the internet wondering about too, though I like your capillaries thing more, where they had the same confusion I did, where I was like, is this like an aliens thing where it's like it's reproducing by having you like burst out of the chest?
Right,
you know, I was like, is something about to burst out of Marlena and then like attack this whole place?
Right.
You know, but that didn't happen. No. But I did wonder about that.
Yeah, there was a little bit of definitely an alien homage there for sure. Yeah.
And then, so, okay, it's recently hatched or recently been birthed.
Or does that mean that it recently gave birth?
I think it's recently been birthed. Because the other thing, because my other question I had that sort of got answered, was like, why is it sticking around Manhattan? Or like even Midtown? It doesn't seem to go very far.
No, it really doesn't go very far.
Like, we have like a whole night passes and it's still kind of in the same-ish place. Like, it's in the area that they need to go save Beth. Like, and it doesn't really stray from there from the beginning.
Did you find any like satisfactory reasoning for that?
Well, the thing I found that was most interesting was that apparently Clover is designed to be a juvenile. It's a baby. Oh. It's a youngin, and it's dealing with separation anxiety.
Aww.
And the quote was like, there's nothing scarier than something that's huge and spooked.
Yeah.
See what I mean about the creature? Just leave it alone. That it's just a baby that's freaking out, so it's not really going that far because it's scared, so it's just trying to stay in place and get everything to go away from it.
Yeah.
You know?
And wait for its mom to come back.
Yeah, something. Oh. But then I still have questions about like,
well, then where's the mom?
And the ending.
And how big is it?
You helpfully rewound the ending for us.
Yes.
So that we could see that final shot of something falling from the sky into the Hudson, I assume. Because that's where the oil tanker goes down.
That's where the oil tanker goes down, but that's in Coney Island. I'm going to be honest. So,
fuck if I know geography of New York.
So, yeah, here's the thing. I haven't. Have you ever even stepped foot in the state of New York?
I have been in upstate New York.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Around all the lakes up there.
The lakes up there. Why'd you do that?
My grandfather bought a house there the last time I ever saw my grandfather.
Okay.
We went to his house there.
I've never even been to the state of New York.
I've never been in the big cities.
Neither of us have been to New York City. I don't know what body of water Coney Island is. I'm sorry.
I know.
So that body of water. Yeah.
Yeah. So I bet. So yeah. But then I was okay. So then I was like, so we know because of the camera, because it's a camera with the little dates on it. We know it fell on April 27th.
Yes.
And then the attack happens on May 22nd. So I'm like, why is it dormant for a month?
What's taking a month?
And I'm like, well, maybe if that's the birth process, quote unquote, it's like it took a month to, or it was hurt and it was just down there just under the water for a month, or like it's recovering, you know? Mm-hmm. And then I also was like, maybe it didn't cause that initial oil tanker crash, which is the first thing we hear about, is the oil tanker going down. I was like, maybe it didn't cause that. Maybe that's what woke it up. It was like sleeping.
So that's not my understanding.
Okay.
But this is the thing, is that what my understanding does not take into account whatever crashed into the water when Rob and Beth are in Coney Island.
Okay. See, because when I actually looked into the like viral marketing that went around it and all the behind the stuff, apparently that thing that fell isn't the monster.
It's a satellite.
It's a satellite that
fell. Japanese satellite.
Yeah, which I guess then like is part of what disturbs the monster and wakes it up.
Yeah, it's
when we get into all the slusho, soft drink, deep sea mining. I know. Whatever the fuck all that shit is. That's like not in the movie.
No, it's not in the movie.
I guess somebody's wearing like a slusho
t-shirt, and I think we see like advertisements for slusho, like when they're in the convenience store or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm like, hold up, you need to back way up. So yeah, because they said the idea is that a Japanese satellite crashes into the water near Coney Island, and then whatever set of events that like sets off. Then it has something to do with the company that makes Slusho.
It was like Tengaro or something.
Which I think is supposed to be the company that Rob is supposed to go work for. Then I think something happenings in Japan because they're like deep sea mining an ingredient for
their Slusho. Yeah, it's like you can only get it in the deepest. I'm like, I don't want to drink that. Do people know that that's what's in the soft drink, or is that like not known?
It also sounds like that. Then that drink would be incredibly expensive.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and they just do it as a soft drink.
Yeah,
you're doing deep sea mining
for a soft drink that is also supposed to like. It's supposed to have like extra properties. It's like It almost kind of seems like a little bit of a snake oil. Like it'll give you more energy and it does everything, right? But then I think the creature, maybe Clover, maybe Clover's mom, I don't know.
Oh, right, yeah.
Was disturbed by the deep sea mining.
Okay.
And was pissed off because that's the tanker that goes to Hudson. That goes to the
What
Hudson
is
River.
the tanker that goes to Hudson?
The one that is full of
Slusho?
Of Slusho
Ingredient.
deep sea mining.
Yeah, it was like
vital ingredients.
Yeah, it was something like submarine nectar or something.
It's not real for sure. And so,
Thanks for clearing that up.
I think
not real.
the monster is like, well, fuck this, and like follows the tanker to New York, and then starts fucking shit up.
That has nothing to do with the Japanese satellite.
It doesn't.
I'm more confused than when we started.
I know. I have 42 new questions and no goddamn answers. Right. And so, I was kind of looking into what the monster's biology kind of tells us about it.
Right.
Like it's physiology.
Well, that was
rather.
one of the things that I said about it being probably the juvenile and not the mom.
Yeah.
Is that I guess it was specifically designed to be kind of like lanky in the way that juveniles are. It's like it has like these front arms that are kind of spindlier.
Yeah.
And like
it doesn't like look super comfortable walking
yeah,
on them.
it looks
just yeah.
It's like
But then it's also very like insectoid. Like it's kind of got those stick-like legs and it's kind of got those beady eyes.
But somehow it had to be underwater for a really long time.
It's
but
definitely
it also
amphibious.
has to be on land. Yeah.
So like, and it's a creature that could probably lives in very deep water.
Right.
That might actually reach very high temperatures.
Oh.
And so would become like burn resist or like heat.
Thus
very
resisting
heat resistant.
the bombs.
Yeah, and probably like adapted to live under some amount of pressure.
Right,
which
yeah.
is, again, probably why the bombs don't really seem to do much. And then it has a tail-like appendage that looks like a tentacle, but isn't.
So maybe that's like a tadpole tail, and then it's going to lose it as it becomes a frog.
Oh, cute. I love that.
It's just so easy to get us on the side of the monster.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it has a tail. What is this? A little tail.
Oh, but okay.
But I just don't understand. Like, I feel like what I was saying about it, this movie may be rewarding you if you put more energy into figuring out the mythos.
Yeah.
It's also a little annoying to find out that, like, ooh, you put the time into, like, looking at that last little minute, whatever, where the thing crashes through the sky, and you get into the further mythos, and it's like,
then
so wait, that
thing has nothing to do with that thing?
Because, like, I saw that, and I was like, oh, it's a fucking alien.
It's an alien.
That's
sure.
dope.
Yeah.
That explains why it came out of nowhere, and I was ready to believe that it, like, was dormant for whatever reason. But, like, no, it's a deep water creature that was always here on Earth, maybe.
Maybe. Well, I think, again, and if you do watch the trilogy, you kind of get a little bit more, especially the Cloverfield paradox, you kind of like get to understand a little bit more about it. And like,
I did see some stuff about like different universes.
Yeah. Really, I think is that like Clover is probably from another dimension.
Oh.
Right. So like now when we say dimension, like, is that what we mean by a different reality? Like the way that we have like multiverses now. And,
yeah.
And so maybe like on a different version of Earth.
Some sort of parallel
and somehow ends up in our reality, in our universe.
Yeah.
So,
through some sort of deep sea portal, which is isn't that literally what Pacific Rim is about? I did see that that was part of why they didn't do an immediate sequel to Cloverfield.
Oh.
It's because, like, Pacific Rim came out, and then, like, some Godzilla movies came out, and they were kind of like, this kaiju market is getting a little oversaturated.
It sure was, yeah. That's also what happens in... I have no idea how to say the title of this movie. I just say it Godzilla X Kong. The new... Or Godzilla times Kong. Because it's Godzilla, the letter X, and Kong. So like,
which makes it sound like...
Godzilla times Kong.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Or that you're shipping them.
Exactly. And so that movie is nuts because the premise is that there is a hollow Earth.
Oh, right. Right. Yes,
and
I heard.
There are like portals to hollow Earth around the world, right?
Yeah.
And like that's part of it. So, there's probably some like deep sea interdimensional travel.
Right. And I guess the idea then is that this whole Japanese company and the satellite is probably related to all that stuff. And like maybe the satellite crashing has some relationship to that portal opening.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Like
there's probably some way to tie it all together, but I don't fucking know what it is.
So before we continue on talking about the other characters, because the monster is absolutely a character in this movie.
The character I care about the most.
Yeah, definitely. But you have a literary corner.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about nonlinear storytelling.
Yeah.
So we're going to not going to go linearly
to the characters. We're going to stop.
Yep.
Do a little whoop.
And then go back.
Yeah.
Okay. Literary corner.
Yeah. Yeah, because we got to talk about nonlinear storytelling, because this will actually kind of tie in really nicely, complement really well some of the things you said about found footage. Because it does some of the same things that found footage does. And this is our second time watching a nonlinear movie. Ju-on,
yes,
was
of course.
even more nonlinear.
Oh, that
than
was
this
a
one.
mess, yeah.
I mean, we really were like,
not a mess.
write down. Like,
we had to write it down.
This person
However,
is related to that person.
However,
but the story happened.
I think what was hardest about that is that it was not in English.
Yeah.
I think if it were in English, I'd be like, okay, I can follow it a little bit better. But it was not
but
in
it's like
English.
I have to read the things.
Yeah.
So I'm processing my mind with my mind that way.
Yes.
And then I also have to process this other thing. Yeah. It was just an extra layer.
You're right.
And yeah, definitely more nonlinear than this one. But this one is nonlinear because we get the other story,
Cuts in the tape.
which is just Rob and Beth having a nice date.
Their one day together.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it started the night before. But
Yeah.
but yeah, and it like, and we don't even see the whole day. We see like the morning that they have together. I think it's still.
Yeah. And then it cuts like when
and we get,
they're
like,
on the way there.
Yeah, we see them. Yeah. So, like with found footage, of course, nonlinear storytelling has its roots in literature. What? No surprise. I mean, as far as I can tell, it goes back to like the beginning of narrative, before things were even written down. Like all those epics like Beowulf and the Iliad and the Mahabharata, like they all begin with this idea of like, this is the present moment where I'm telling you this.
Yes.
Now we're going to flash back to the main events of the story. So this idea of like the whole story being a flashback.
The Princess Bride.
The Princess Bride. Exactly.
You know.
That's more of a, he's literally telling the story.
That classic literary work on the same level as the Iliad.
But like the idea, it's a little different with the Iliad and like these things, because it's like the person telling the story is also in the story and is telling a true story.
Oh, okay.
You know, it's like our world is the way it is now because of this thing that happened.
Yeah.
You know, and then we get like other things, but I think the real, when we get to the sort of nonlinear storytelling of the story that isn't just like this one flashback, this one sort of framing device for the story, like a framing device like you would also have for like Tales of the Arabian Night, where it's like, here's a bunch of little stories being told by this person, you know, where we actually get like true non-linearity, where it's like we're jumping from this time to this time to this time, you know, all over the place. Like that got really popular with like the more modernist stream of consciousness writers like William Faulkner, Virginia Woolf. Like it's not just that one flashback. It's like throughout the narrative, we kind of bounce between people's different stories, because that can also be nonlinear when we have like two people have a story happening at the same time.
Right.
But we get told one person's story first and then the other person's, or like we'll get their story and then we get like their memories tell us something that happened in the past. So like we reveal more about them. But in terms of film, it's also long been used, nonlinear storytelling. There's actually a good quote by Jean-Luc Godard, who says, "I agree that a film should have a beginning and a middle and an end, but not necessarily in that order." Which is great. And it's doing, because that was also coming up with like the whole idea of like the modernism and the like stream of consciousness and like sort of trying to recreate how memory works and like be a little avant-garde with it, you know. But I do think, I mean, this is just my supposition, but I feel like probably what's made it like really more mainstream instead of avant-garde is probably like Quentin Tarantino. Right? Yeah. Like fucking Kill Bill and like fucking Pulp Fiction and stuff. And honestly, I think also, speaking of J.J. Abrams, who produced this film, fucking Lost. When Lost came out.
Oh my goodness.
That was like such a big deal. Now so many shows do that thing where it's like, here's the modern time story that's going on, but we're going to get flashbacks to learn more about this one character.
Right, yeah.
Like Orange is the New Black did that. Like a bunch of shows do that now where we get like little...
I really like the way Orange is the New Black did it with like one character. It's like we're focusing on Red today.
Yeah.
We're focusing on Blanca today. You know,
well, Lost did that too.
Did they focus? Like I thought. It's been so long since I watched Lost, but like it is worth remembering what a phenomenon Lost was.
Yeah. And that was kind of like,
and the hand J.J. Abrams had in that.
Yeah. And that was kind of like not a new conceit. Obviously, people have been doing nonlinear storytelling, but like that was like part of the phenomenon was being like, oh, that's why Sawyer is the curmudgeon anti-hero we love, because of that backstory. Right. Oh, we thought maybe he was the person who was arrested by the whoever.
Yeah.
But actually it was her, like it just sort of changed. And now, so many things do it. And I just think it became more popular because of those big cultural moments like Pulp Fiction and like Lost.
Yeah.
And just to talk about, like you did with found footage, why found footage, the benefits of nonlinear storytelling.
Why linear storytelling? Non-linear storytelling.
Yeah. I was thinking, like found footage, it kind of makes the audience feel a little bit off-kilter initially.
Yeah, I get, like, real confused when I haven't fully understand, oh, it's non-linear. I'm like,
we're in
what
the
the
now.
fuck
Like,
is going on?
who is the what?
Did
Why
I
are we
miss
that?
something? Yeah.
Who, why?
Who's this guy?
Yeah. So it's like, and it immediately puts your mind into that place of being like, oh, there's a puzzle here to solve.
Yeah.
And it like kind of like, so it makes you a little shaky, often like the characters are.
Yeah.
Because there's a huge monster or whatever.
Right.
And that's really what it is. Like the first time that camera jumps ahead a month where it's like, okay, here we are with Rob and Beth, just like this couple, whatever. And then suddenly like the camera jumps ahead a month and it's like this other couple. What's going on?
Yeah.
Like it does have you a moment where like, I know that there's going to be a connection here, but I don't know what it is. So your brain kind of like starts trying to lock in and really pay attention.
Yeah.
And it like encourages you to do like rewatches and get things that you didn't before. Because it's like, oh, now we know what Rob and Beth's relationship is. It makes that scene where they're waking up so much more interesting once we know who they are and like their initial interactions at the party. Now we understand like, yeah, they're all upset because we get to see later how much they loved each other or whatever. And it's like, it sort of mirrors the way that the characters, specifically in this film, find things out kind of out of order. Like I was talking about, where it's like the earth tremor, the lights flickering, the Statue of Liberty head, and then finally we find out about the monster.
Yeah, there's a monster.
Like they're the layers of how we find out information that aren't happening in order. And like the audience is experiencing that too.
Yeah.
Another benefit to nonlinear storytelling, it can kind of like, especially with like Lost and like Pulp Fiction, it sort of shows things in a new light. You sort of get this past information. You're like, oh, I did not understand that this character was doing this for this reason or whatever. Yeah. Like, I think we understand Rob's drive to save Beth.
Yeah.
I mean,
but as much as
we'll
I
talk about that.
Can. Yeah.
But like the more we see of their date, where it's like, oh, they really did love each other. Like they really liked each other. They were really happy together having that date, especially with that final shot where she's like, I had a really nice day, a really good day, whatever it is. Like, but then also with that scene, we get the little fucking thing, whatever, falling down. Yeah. And that makes us think back to the whole rest of the movie. Like, well, what's that connection to the fucking monster? What's that? Which apparently there aren't answers to.
Turns out, not sure. Yeah.
But whatever.
Dubious.
And then the last thing, which kind of goes with the found footage realism, is that I think there's something about non-linearity that better reflects human memory. And also just sort of like the natural way that we tell stories to each other. Right. Like if I'm telling you something that happened, I'll often be like, so I was going to wherever with blah, blah, blah. Oh, by the way, blah, blah, blah. I met them over there back then. You know, like we'll do these little asides.
I had to do this because this happened.
Yeah. Oh, did I tell you about this the other day? Like we do that kind of, we go on tangents and like stop to give a little background. And I think Cloverfield like really does take advantage of the idea of it being memory. I mean, I again, going back to what HUD tells Rob about how like people will want to see this. It's not going to be enough just to tell them. Yeah. Like people will want to see it
with their
own
eyes.
There's a sort of unreliability to like memory and word of mouth.
Yeah, very. Yeah.
And like with a camera, it's like, this is real. You're seeing it. Yeah. But like with the non-linear stuff, it makes it still also have that sort of like fallibility to it, where it's like we do kind of experience Beth and Rob's love story, if you want to call it that, as kind of more of a memory. Like, this is what Rob is thinking about when he's going to save Beth. He is thinking about when they woke up together, when they were on the bus together, when they were on the Ferris wheel together. Like, that is his memory. And just like memory, it's sort of incomplete and it's like missing these pieces. Yeah. It's not all there. And it isn't all thought of all at once. Like, there are pieces missing. And then, like, once you get it all, it sort of makes sense. Like, just the fact that they are in love, which is what we're led to believe, that they love each other. Yeah. Like, early on in the story, they seem to have forgotten that because they're fighting at the party. Right. And then, like, as the quote-unquote memories get revealed to the audience, they sort of remember it about each other, too, and, like, fall back in love. So, it mirrors it really well. I will give it credit for that. Yeah. Even though they're kind of annoying about their love. Yeah. Which, I mean, we can just get back to talking about. That's, like, what I have to say about non-linearity. I I feel like what it mostly serves in this film, unlike the found footage, which really serves like the horror, I feel like the nonlinear storytelling is really just about Rob and
The
Beth
love story.
more than anything else.
Yeah.
The only other thing we learn about it is that apparently a satellite fell. That is maybe related.
But not necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we were talking about when, we watched this movie, and we were talking about, like, I'm really noticing really only one major theme here.
Yeah.
And that is, like, the dichotomy of your actions being based in logic versus emotion.
Yes.
And so you already kind of mentioned this, that, like, this happens, we get this kind of conversation between Rob and Jason, who are brothers.
Yes.
Talking on the balcony before the shit goes down. Feelings versus facts. They're having that conversation, right? Because Rob is like, but I really like Beth, and like his feelings for her. And Jason's like, she's way out of your league. That's a fact.
Yeah.
Right? And like...
And I feel like the other fact that's brought up, maybe not there, maybe somewhere else, I can't remember, but it comes up a lot that like, well, I'm going to go to Japan anyway, so there's like no point.
Yes. And so that is, kind of a like, to me, I understood that to kind of be Beth's decision to be like,
I thought that was Rob's decision.
Oh, okay. So maybe it was, right?
Yeah.
To be like,
because Rob sort of ghosted Beth.
Yes.
Beth is upset about it.
Yeah. Because he's like, I'm moving to Japan.
So there's like no point. But I think his decision was based not on like the logic of I'm moving on to Japan, but on the feeling of it'll hurt too much to be separated from her if I get more attached to her than I already am. So I'm going to cut things off now.
Right now, yeah.
I think was his reasoning.
Okay, yeah. But then Beth also tells him to go. That's part of what we see in the nonlinear kind of flashbacks.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know, should I do it? And she's like, you should do it.
Well, because it's a huge, big opportunity.
It's a huge, big opportunity,
and they've had one date. But
exactly.
They've been friends for a long time, and I guess in love with each other for a long time, but...
Whatever.
But also, like, that doesn't need to mean the end of their relationship if he goes to Japan. Like, did he maybe talk about it with her?
Yeah.
No. He fucking ghosted her.
So it's just interesting that, like, we set up Rob as a character who tends to lead more with his feelings.
Yeah.
And Jason is someone who tends to lead more with logic.
Though I find that interesting.
Yeah.
Because one line that I wrote down from the party scene, because it immediately struck me as like, oh, that's probably going to be the thesis of the film. Before I even watched the film, I was like, I'm going to write that down. That seems important. Which is Jason says, you just need to say, forget the world and hold on to the people that you care about the most. And I'm like, that's what this movie's going to be about.
What that movie's
They're going to be like, forget the world and just do whatever you need to do. Yeah.
And they're going to stick together.
They're not really going to care about the rest of the world. They're not even going to care about, honestly, their own safety.
No, not really.
Or the safety of their friends.
Yeah.
Rob is only going to care about getting to Beth.
Yeah. Regardless of what state she may or may not be in.
Yeah.
Like, she might already be dead.
The fact that all these other people are going to go along with him, and so he's putting them in danger. Yeah.
Yeah, so, but what's interesting is that, like, Jason is the one who dies on the Brooklyn Bridge, right?
Yeah.
And then Rob continues through the rest of the film to act based on his emotions.
Yeah.
What he wants rather than what is a logical way to respond in this situation, right? But then we do get, like, really... It goes kind of Lovecraftian then, right? That's just like, I mean, what the fuck is logic, you know? When
what do you do when you're in the face of that?
Yeah.
What you were talking about with Marlena, where she kind of does go almost into that catatonia, where because she's the one who actually sees it.
She's in shock, yeah.
Yeah, she's the one who sees it out there while they're all hiding in a convenience store or wherever the fuck they are.
Yeah.
She sees something, she sees it eat people somehow.
Yeah.
Which we don't even know how it eats people, really.
Yeah.
I guess we saw it eat HUD. But at that point, we don't know.
Not really. Like,
yeah, it sort of tore him apart.
It's
I don't
hard to
know.
tell.
So, yeah, and she's just sort of sitting there freaked the fuck out.
Definitely. And so, like, you know, what is the logical way to
like,
react
do you do
in this
that?
situation?
Do you just hold down? Do you do whatever you do to get away?
Yeah.
Do you run? Do you fight? Marlena, interestingly, is also the first one that I saw, at least.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell with the found footage. But I think she's the first one to actually, like, pick up a weapon and fight back against, like, the little parasites.
Little parasites, yeah.
So she's also the first one to choose, like, a fight response.
Right. And which then they pick up and start... They all kind of pick up and start to fight back as well, yeah.
Yeah, and she gets hurt for it. But
yeah, and it's just like, okay, so... how do you act on logic in this instance? Like, I feel like my response would be like, get me out of Manhattan.
Yeah.
But again, like, how do you get out of Manhattan? It's an island.
And also,
right?
would that be your first response if you knew the person you loved most in the world? Not necessarily romantically. Think if it's me.
Right.
What if you got a phone call from me where I was like, I'm alive, but I'm stuck somewhere?
Oh, if you,
that's Beth's call, was like,
That's
I'm
true.
stuck. My building fell. I'm stuck under the wall
girl,
or something.
your building's elevator better work, because I am.
I'll come to you, but I will not go up those fucking stairs.
I'm not walking up 39 flights of stairs, and I'm certainly not doing it in heels.
Oh my God.
Poor
Lily.
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 I know.
Like, maybe that is the logical thing to do, is to go after the people you love. I don't know.
Right? Why not?
Or the reasonable thing. Maybe not logical, but
Right.
reasonable.
So I just kind of started to look at like each character's actions and just kind of being like, okay, well, are their actions kind of driven by logic, or are they, or emotion, right? And I mean, there's a lot of emotions to feel. Like, that's scary. It's
Before we get into the individual characters,
Sure.
did you have like a kind of general opinion on the characters of this film? Not in like, did they seem realistic or something, but like, were you kind of annoyed by any of them?
No, I wasn't annoyed. I was kind of bored by some of them.
Like, because you were like, I was also. We were both kind of rolling our eyes at like the Rob and Beth love story. And I remember initially being like, wow, Rob is waking up his girlfriend at like 6 a.m. What the fuck? Fuck this guy.
With her, like, and she's on camera, and she's like
naked
in bed, like asleep, so she's being woken up on camera, and she doesn't seem to be fully clothed. Like,
and
that's
then we
uncool,
immediately go to Jason, who's like fucking around this camera while his girlfriend Lily is clearly holding, like, she's carrying a bunch of bags. Yes. And so I'm just like, Jason, you're a douchebag too.
Yeah.
Hold those fucking bags. So I was just sort of like, all the boyfriends in this film suck.
Yeah.
So I was a little, and I also saw some people refer to this movie as Godzilla for the MySpace generation. And I was like, this is just maybe a very older millennial movie.
Sure.
Or, I don't know. We don't know how generations work.
No.
But whatever generation that is. But yeah, the MySpace generation would be millennials, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
older
very,
millennials.
yeah.
I mean, I had a MySpace.
Yeah.
Many moons ago.
Yeah, and I do think that there is a little bit of that in, like, when we watched Bodies, 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 that little bit of like, oh, you guys are just kind of young, not as young as they are in Bodies, Bodies, Bodies.
Yeah, like you guys are kids.
But just like the way that they're partying, and the way that even though Jason and Lily, they're married. So
they're
like,
engaged.
They're engaged.
Yeah.
So they're like kind of settled, and like Rob has this big job. So they're like a little bit older.
Yeah.
But there's the sense that they're still young and kind of partying and still
and
like.
Don't have like effective ways of like communicating.
Yeah, like they just haven't quite
Yeah.
fully grown up and like.
Yeah.
But also, yeah, it'd be hard to effectively communicate in this fucking, like you said, in this fucking environment.
Yeah.
What do you do? I mean, I also think about, there's that like Eastern European gentleman that they run into in the alleyway who's like talking to them in.
Oh yeah. He's like,
whatever.
I don't speak English. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or I don't understand you. Yeah.
Yeah, I tried to figure out what it was that he said. And
what is he saying?
once again, the internet had various different answers for me. Some of them to say that it was about him warning them about the smaller, the lice
smaller
things,
ones, yeah.
the little whatever parasites those are. But somebody else said that it was him pleading for help for his family who are still back inside the building. And I was just like, I hope it's that, because that is very thematic.
Yeah.
Like, that is why you would stay in this scary situation, because like your
need help.
wife and daughter or whatever are still stuck in that building, and you need help getting them out. And that's basically what Rob's doing.
That's true. That is what Rob's doing, especially after his brother dies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like one thing, because he was kind of going with everybody getting out of the city.
Yeah, they're all on the bridge.
Leaving, and then Jason dies, and then after that is when he gets the call from Beth and decides,
I think so. Yeah.
And goes into this one mission of like, well, I couldn't save my brother, I'm going to save the one person I can. Yeah. And then of course Lily feels like she has to go along too, because in a way Rob is what's left of Jason to her.
Right? Yeah.
You know?
I think maybe part of why maybe these characters don't like sing to me, like they're not that bad, you know? They weren't annoying me as much as some of the ladies in The Descent did, you know? Yeah. Or Alice in Bodies, Bodies, Bodies.
I fucking love her. But I won't even support that.
I think it's like basically what we have is like relentless heterosexuality. Yeah. Like we got Jason and Lily, who are like they're engaged, they're a couple. We've got the whole Rob and Beth bullshit.
Yeah, and then Marlena and Hud. Hud, like this whole thing was just sort of like from the beginning he agrees to do the camera because it's like, oh, Marlena's going to be there. He'll have an excuse to talk to Marlena, which are some of the best parts because Lily Lizzie Kaplan is like,
she's doing so good.
She's great, eh? Like, she's just such a good comedic actor. So just
hug. She's like, I'm
hug.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to meet you. He's like, we've actually met several times. Like, she doesn't remember you. You don't impress her. Like, move
Leave her
on. I know.
Leave her alone. Her name is Marlena Diamond. She has bigger stuff to do.
she was leaving that party to go meet friends.
Yeah, she had bigger stuff to do.
Yeah, she had
probably
plans
should have
that
left
evening.
by now if you hadn't stopped her with your dumb camera.
Yeah, and then
Hug.
who knows what kind of situation she would have gotten in when the shit went down. Maybe it would have been better for her.
Yeah, maybe at least that group of people would have agreed to just get the fuck out.
Yeah, right.
Or they would have died on the bridge. Who knows?
Who knows? So, yeah, to me, Marlena especially, she is like the epitome of being at the wrong place at the wrong time.
I know, and she gets stuck in that really bad position of being like, okay, so the only group of people I know right now that I am with, really just Lily more than anybody else.
Yeah.
Like, she's friends with Lily.
Lily's friend, yeah.
It's like, well, they're going closer to danger.
Yeah.
But if I want to go further from danger, I have to leave the like safety of the pack
Of the group, yeah.
You know, I have to go off on my own.
Yeah.
And it's like, that is such a difficult calculus to make.
Yes, it is.
Like, I don't know what I would choose.
No.
Well, like, I'd probably stay with the group because I don't want to be alone.
I'd like to think that I would run off. Well, because especially at a certain point, like when we do see that like huge horde of people exiting south or whatever towards the bridge.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'd be like, okay, I can go get in that group. Like,
right, yeah,
no
yeah, as long
problem.
as there's still people. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, if like
But at a certain point it's like
in the middle of like the subway,
yeah.
I'd be like, I'm not going anywhere.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I just feel so bad for her because, like, she obviously had other plans that evening. She didn't want to hang
not that
out
close
too
to
long.
these people. She doesn't
She's
know
friends
Rob.
with Lily. She doesn't know Rob very well.
Met him, like, what she says, she like met them 3 times, and all those times he was drunk.
She was drunk. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like she literally, she stuck around because she thought maybe HUD was some sort of professional videographer
And could help her out with a
career.
thing she needed. Yeah,
because she
yeah.
is maybe trying to be an actor or something. I honestly wasn't clear about that.
Yeah. Yeah, she's kind of... So, yeah, I do notice that Marlena does kind of go with the flow. But it's almost like maybe she doesn't feel like she has any other choice.
Yeah.
Right, like we
which
were just
I
talking
understand,
about.
because it's like, okay, it's one thing if Rob's going to run off after this other chick who I think Marlena also doesn't know.
Yes.
To go save her, which is like, oh, valiant, great, go do that. And then it's like, oh, Lily is going to go
too?
do...
Lily's going too?
Oh, and then HUD also, not that I really wanted to stick around with HUD, but like, at least he was HUD.
Yeah.
But it's like, all 3 of them are leaving? I don't know.
Yeah, Marlena definitely seems to be the one who's like, she definitely just seems to be the most visibly shaken.
Yeah.
Right? Because she sees something that the other characters don't see.
She is the only one out there when
something happens.
There's something about, in terms of like what I read about the creature design, something about how it has like an external esophagus that like comes out and like grabs people and pulls them up into its stomach or something. It like reaches out and grabs right into the stomach or something. I don't know. So I guess maybe she saw that.
Okay, yeah.
And that's how it eats people?
Yeah, and she's just like, and she's the one who gets bit by the parasitic lice, which ends up causing her death,
because
right?
she's fucking brave and saves HUD.
Yeah.
Of all people.
I know, right? Why him? Yeah.
I mean, I liked HUD, but if I was Marlena, I'd be like, HUD?
Fucking HUD, yeah. So, yeah, I kind of feel like maybe she's the one who represents sort of like that Lovecraftian idea of like kind of losing the grip on sanity.
Yeah, and being in just like such an uncomprehendable moment that like there really isn't anything to do but other than get sucked along with it and try to keep your sanity.
Yeah.
Try to survive, you know?
Yeah.
I would say, in terms of the characters being annoying, I was most sympathetic with Marlena the whole time.
Yes, me too.
I also liked Lily because she seemed to be a little bit more reasonable.
Yeah.
Rob was annoying to me.
Rob was
I was very annoyed. Not because he wanted to go save Beth. Like, cool, do that. And if his friends want to go along with him, then like that's their choice. Like, I don't say that it's his fault necessarily, but I am kind of like, he keeps running. Like when he runs into the electronics store initially, he doesn't say anything. He just runs off. Yeah. And then he's in there doing shit and he's like not telling them what he's doing.
You need to communicate with your team,
like,
man. Yeah.
I get that. You just watched your brother die. That's fucking traumatic.
That's awful,
but like, communicate. Yeah. And it's like, you're fucking over your friends right now. this isn't just about you. This isn't just the Beth Rob love story.
Yeah.
You're sucking other people in.
This is like an apocalyptic event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, we can kind of say that because Rob was in love with Beth.
Yeah.
Like, Hud and Marlena are killed.
Yeah. And Lily.
Maybe.
We assume.
Maybe. We
Yeah.
don't know. We don't know. So it's
I
like their
assume.
love killed 2 people. So
At least 2, maybe 3.
So forget the world or whatever the fuck Jason said.
Yeah.
You know? And we even know that it all goes back to them because we get that last shot is of them. And not the creature. What I thought initially was the creature falling to Earth. So I was like, wow, the creature fell to Earth on their first date. It's all about them.
It's about them. Yeah.
But like, it's not.
Some chain of events possibly kicks off on their first date. Yeah.
Yeah.
Possibly.
But yeah, no. So I will say he kind of annoyed me.
I think, yeah. Because, he's definitely like, he kind of reminded me of a little kid. Like, we have to do this. You know, like I think he was kind of the de facto leader because he's the one who really wants to go get Beth, and Beth and Lily are friends, and
right, yeah. And Lily goes, I mean, like they all agree to do it, but like they wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't for him, but they do agree to do it, But I would say I was a little.
I think maybe what I meant earlier when I said that I feel like Beth is the one who acts more with logic, right?
Yeah,
is that like maybe she's like, okay, Rob is moving to Japan. Like, this won't happen. So
I'm going to get a new guy.
Bring my friend Travis to this party.
Yeah. Who I'm like kind of seeing or whatever.
But can we talk about
how it's
that bullshit?
Yeah.
When she leaves. Well, because she's pissed. Like, he's being a dick to her.
He's being a dick to her.
Yeah. And she's like, okay, well, I'm leaving. I don't
want to be here when you're being a dick to me for literally something that is not my fault.
Yeah. And then she's very congenial. She's like, good luck in Japan. Like,
she
bless you.
And we also know that she was very honest when HUD videotapes her, and she's like very clearly like, I really genuinely hope that like everything goes well for you in Japan. Care about you a lot. Like whatever she says, it's like really earnest. And like she's still, even after they fight more as she's leaving, she's like,
good luck in
it's
Japan.
clear that she, even if they can't be together, she's still like, we are friends. I care about you. I hope you do well in Japan.
I want good things for you.
Good luck in Japan.
Yeah.
And then that motherfucker turns to this random, the guy.
Travis,
who he doesn't know anything about his relationship with Beth.
Travis has no idea what he's gotten himself into.
And it's not even clear if Travis and Beth are like dating or anything. Yeah. But Rob is like, good luck tonight, Travis.
And Travis doesn't really seem to...
Yeah. I think he's aware that
to engage.
Yeah, he's like, there's obviously a lot.
Like, this is your shit. Yeah.
I just see behind the scenes. I don't remember if it was like J.J. Abrams or Drew Goddard or whoever it was. Something about how like and then Travis went back home off the island of Manhattan, and he wasn't there for the whole thing. Travis is fine.
Yeah. He doesn't live in Manhattan. Maybe
Word
Brooklyn
of God,
or Queens.
He's fine. Yeah. I don't remember what it was. So word of God, Travis is fine.
Love it.
So good luck tonight, Travis.
Good.
He did great
that
luck.
Was lucky.
Honestly,
he was lucky.
Best luck.
Yeah.
So yay, Travis.
Yeah, that kind of leads like into that like kind of immaturity thing. It's like it's like, and also sort of like hey man, like you don't own her.
Yeah. And like you were saying with the emotion stuff of like, that was clearly a very emotionally driven response.
He's upset. Yeah.
And he didn't take a moment to be like, is this something that is like actually how I feel? Like, or like, is this just how I'm feeling in the moment because I'm like upset? You know what I mean?
And I want to lash out.
Like, is this really how I would want our last interaction to be before I could, Yeah. And he even does, to talk a bit about Lily, who I also liked in this film. The women were just so much more rational than these emotional men.
They were, yeah. Or I feel like in the case of HUD, just stupid.
Yeah.
I don't think HUD's very smart.
Yeah.
That's okay.
He just sort of had that, like, that frat boy best friend energy. Mm-hmm. Not like the main frat boy, but like the best friend in the frat.
Best friend, yeah.
He's like in the frat, but like,
He's the best supporting actor.
Yeah. Which is his role. But when Lily is trying to talk to Rob, because Lily is interesting as the one person who can kind of actually talk to Rob.
Yes.
She does talk about them being
because of her relationship to Jason.
Yeah, she talks about them being basically sibling, that like she sees him as a brother. And she talks about,
I'm not officially family yet.
But I do like her little goodbye message about like, can't believe you're leaving me here alone to take care of your brother. It's like cute. It's like, it shows a cute dynamic between all three of them.
Yeah.
That I like.
Yeah.
But anyway, when she's talking to him about like why he feels like he needs to go save Beth, one of the things he does bring up is like, I can't believe the last thing I said to her was good luck to Travis.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, and I'm like, yeah,
that is fucked.
Yeah.
And then Lily is like, I mean, God, the last thing I said to Jason, we were like fighting. We were fighting all day about like the party and the camera and stuff.
Yeah.
And then Rob says something about like, but that's different because Jason knew that you loved him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But I do think there is something in that of like, what you're saying about like Rob being very emotions driven. Lily is sort of looking at it more like, okay, but look at it more big picture. Yes, that was the last thing you said to Beth.
Yeah.
And like, obviously you didn't leave things in good place, but like if Beth actually sat there and thought about you, she would be annoyed, but like she probably did know that you cared a lot about her.
Yeah.
You know, and like I think Lily
like,
has the perspective of that.
And she would just be like, that emotional mother-fucker, you know? Yeah. It's also interesting the way that happens because I just, you know, it's an interesting gender dynamic.
Yeah.
Because like normally and like in a lot of media, like there is sort of like stereotypes perpetuated that
women are over emotional.
Like women's brains are emotional brains.
Yeah.
They react with emotion
the whole
first.
Going back to hysteria.
Yeah, and men are logical and their brain is a brain
the emotions down.
their brain is a brain of reason.
Yes.
Therefore, it is more trustworthy and inherently better, right? And it's just
of course that dichotomy is bullshit.
It's not. Yeah.
And the whole idea of emotion being like worse or something than logic is bullshit.
Yeah.
The idea of it being connected to gender is bullshit.
The idea that those two things are completely disconnected
or that they're opposites of each other, like the way that they're put as like emotion versus logic.
So we know that it's nonsense, but it's an idea that gets perpetuated a lot, you know. And
it's very
so
often
interesting to see this like that gets turned on its head. Like the men are the ones kind of acting,
sort of emotionally, a little bit out of control, a little hysteric.
Impulsive, and the women are like, okay, like,
Lily is the one person who can be like, wait, Rob, stop running for a moment.
Hold on.
Explain what is happening. Explain what you're doing. Yeah. We will think about it logically. Okay, we need to save Beth.
We can help you. And
how are we going to do that?
Yeah.
We together, using our brains.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. So I liked that, you know.
Yeah, I do too.
I don't really think there's a ton of more like gender stuff happening in this movie.
Other than like you said, that the heterosexuality of it all.
Relentlessly heterosexual.
Yeah.
Yes. But other than
the fact that Lily is doing it all in her heels for some reason.
Oh, sweet Jesus, yeah.
Does she ever take them off at some point? I can't remember.
She does.
When
at
they're
some point up
climbing
the stairs, she takes them
and
off.
across the roof. Yeah, because oh my God.
Yeah.
Poor Lily. She did not plan for this.
No, yeah, that's the thing is, it was interesting that party was so formal. Like they were dressed up.
Yeah, they were in their little suits. and like their nice heels and stuff.
Yeah, nice dresses and high heels or boots. Yeah, Marlena's got the boots, which is the way to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
She did also look a little bit less dressed up because I think this was one of like several.
She had other plans.
Yeah, she was just coming in to be like, "Hey, Lily, just stopped in.
Yeah, hey Rob,
we're friends.
Best of luck.
Good luck." And then like be on her way.
Yeah.
And speaking of clothes, though,
yes.
when they do catch up with Beth, I love that she had already changed into like her comfy clothes.
Yeah,
she's like in her little pajamas or whatever. She's got like the comfy pants and the
because Travis went off the island.
Yeah, because Travis isn't there.
And she's like, I'm gonna go to bed.
But then I think she's fucking like barefoot running for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if I'd rather. I always think about that in movies where it's like, why did she keep her heels on? I'm like, well, if the option's heels or barefoot
in a major city. When under attack and there's
that's a difficult decision.
Debris, I wouldn't.
They're both bad.
They're both bad. I would probably go barefoot because I don't know how to walk in heels. Yeah. And like my feet are pretty. I'm used to walking barefoot, so like my feet could. I mean, it wouldn't be great,
right? Yeah.
But I would rather like get my foot cut up by some broken glass than attacked by a parasitic lice.
Oh yeah.
Me. That's me.
Yeah, but then if you're the sort of person who probably Lily is, who like wears heels a lot, maybe wears them to work, right? She's probably pretty good. Yeah, she can probably go up and down stairs. Maybe not 40 fucking flights of stairs, but like the normal amount to get up to her apartment or whatever. Yeah. Like, and she can run in them. I always found it not too hard to run in heels.
Okay.
I don't know. I do think it's a more difficult decision than people seem to want it to be because they always want it to be like a sexism thing.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I don't know.
I mean, Lily's the one who put those shoes on her feet, man.
Yeah, but also Lily is a character created by a man.
Created by men, honestly, it is because of the running and the walking and the heels that, spoiler, Lily is my athlete.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I can't wait to talk about this with you.
Yeah, let's get into archetypes. Yeah. As we already said, this film was written by Drew Goddard, and Drew Goddard co-wrote with Joss Whedon, Cabin in the Woods. Go back to our very first episode.
Yeah.
And so...
And if you've never seen Cabin in the Woods, do yourself a favor.
Yeah, just fucking watch it.
It's a treat. Yeah.
It's an absolute treat.
Yeah.
It's a joy. But the whole, part of the whole conceit of it is that there are 5 archetypes that need to be sacrificed to the old gods.
Archetypes of usually young people.
Yes, and they are based on, like metatextually, they are based on the archetypes of traditional slasher films.
Yes.
So we have the virgin, the athlete, the scholar, the fool, and the whore.
Right. So usually there are like sets of rules, right? So usually the whore dies first, not before putting on a show.
Yeah, she puts on a show and then she is the transgressor in some way.
And so she has to be punished first, right?
Yep.
And then the virgin is often who ends up being in a slasher film, the final girl.
Yes.
Who we've talked a lot about, like go listen to our episode on Scream.
Oh, listen to, honestly, most of our episodes.
I don't even, we talk about, I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah,
right?
we do a lot of that one.
The way that, like, and also the psycho killer, the slasher is also part of, has a role to play in that group, right?
Yes.
And so the final girl, the virgin, and the psycho killer do kind of have an interesting interconnectedness.
Yes.
That's depending on which slasher film you're watching can be very interesting.
And I think that makes this film an interesting one to do this for because, as you pointed out, this is not a slasher film. So the archetypes don't really apply. We're dealing with a monster.
Yeah.
And this monster doesn't have any sort of like connection with any of our main characters.
Yeah.
We don't really have a final girl, though we can talk about that when we talk about who our virgin is.
Right.
So it doesn't quite work with the archetypes, but it's interesting to play archetypes for this.
Fun.
In general, it's always fun. We like to do it. Yeah. But it's interesting for this one in particular because it's another movie written by the guy who came up with our game archetypes. So it's like, does he follow it? Does he do the archetypes?
Right.
In his other films?
Yeah.
So,
well, technically, this one's before Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah, so...
Maybe hadn't perfected the idea.
So maybe these are like prototypes of the archetypes.
So, again, kind of a pretty hard and fast rule is that there is an archetype of the whore.
Yes.
Who's almost always female. That's the other thing is that it is gendered.
Yeah, the whore and the virgin tend to be women.
Right. Sort of a, dichotomy of femininity.
And then the other ones tend to be men.
Tend to
have more men than women in a slasher.
Yeah. Hey, not in Evil Dead.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
Anywho, so we've got our characters. We got Rob, main guy. We got Hud, the camera guy. We got Marlena, played by Lizzie Kaplan. Lily, Jason, and Beth.
So we do have 6.
That's 6, but whatever, it's fine.
We'll do it. We've done it with harder numbers.
So if we are following traditional archetype rules, then Jason is the one who dies first.
I've wondered about that. Yes.
Which makes him the whore.
Yes. And I was thinking about it, like, is he kind of a transgressor? I do feel like there's something about him shirking his responsibilities. Is like kind of the one thing we know about him.
It's his brother who's going away. Yeah, it's his brother's
and we know right away that it's like Lily, his fiance, gives him a job and is like, hey, it'd be really cool if you just recorded little videos of all of them. You could probably get it done before the party even starts.
And then he immediately delegates
it's like,
that
hey,
task.
how'd you do it? I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And then I also think there's something transgressive maybe in the fact that he's the one who gets away from the pack and dies on the bridge.
Oh.
Everybody else stops because Rob gets
yeah.
the phone call from Beth, I think. And everybody else realizes that and like
They
stops
stop, yeah.
and stays back.
But he runs.
But he keeps
off
going
on the bridge.
And I feel like maybe in this film, which is so based on like staying with your group,
Yeah.
you know, and like forget the world, hold on to the people
who love you. Yeah, which Jason says.
Yeah, and Jason transgresses right away
Yeah.
and doesn't stay. He doesn't hold on to the people he cares about most, so he
Jason,
has
buddy.
to die.
He dies. Yeah.
But I also wondered about Beth as the whore,
right.
even though she doesn't die until the end. If she even
makes
does
it
die.
to the end. Yeah.
But
yeah.
like in terms of like putting on a show, one of our very first shots is her like half naked in bed.
But isn't that because like the character of Rob has like put her in that position?
Yes. But also, isn't that always the case where it's the movie makers putting the whores in that position?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But, and also, like, I don't know, we also know that she's romantically involved with 2 different men, maybe.
Yes.
So, oh my God.
Oh, I do love the scene where Hud, like, I think Rob says, like, Beth and I had sex. Don't tell anyone. And then, like, the next scene is him
like,
on camera.
Like, oh, yeah. Do people who, like, don't, some of them don't even seem to really know
like,
who he's talking about.
Oh, what crazy. Yeah, he just wants to tell somebody.
Just like, okay.
Like, Rob and Beth even calls it, like, they had sexual intercourse.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he goes to Marlena, and Marlena clearly is sort of like, I barely know these people.
I don't care.
I don't know what kind of reaction you want me to have.
Yeah. Why does it matter?
Yeah. So like, there's some horror energy there.
And then she shows up to the party with Travis.
Yeah. And I also was thinking about it back when I thought their first date, that little satellite falling was the creature falling.
Yes.
I was like, classic horror behavior. Her sexuality is drawing the monster.
Oh shit.
She like summons the monster, just like we talked about in Jaws.
Yes.
You know, like summoning the monster with her.
It's the kickoff. Yeah. Even though it's the last scene of the film, non-linear storytelling.
The kickoff.
Yeah.
You know?
Ooh, I like that.
But then it's like, well, what makes it her instead of Rob?
Instead of Rob.
What is Rob for you? Is he your virgin?
He's my final girl. Yeah, he's my final boy.
Samesies. He's my virgin. And I will say, I love the idea of the whore and the virgin being romantically involved with each other. Like, that's delicious. I would love a movie, like an actual slasher, to really get in on that. Yeah. And especially to make it lesbians. But, like, that's a side note. That's a side note.
Neither here nor there.
Neither here nor there. Yeah. But, like, ooh. So, like, that could be something there.
But then, again, like, as Sigourney Weaver very clearly states in Cabin in the Woods, like, the whore must die first.
Yeah.
Right? So I love, but then, but now we're talking about that, like, this is maybe like kind of a prototype, right?
Yeah, and that maybe Jason and Beth sort of split up the role of whore between them.
Yeah. Ooh, I like that. Well, I love when a man's a whore like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're making a really good argument for Beth.
And I also love the idea of Rob as the final girl, because we love a final boy.
We love a final boy. There's some great final boys out there, yeah.
Is there anything else, though, that makes him the final boy?
He is a little sort of, at least I think, a little naive.
Yeah.
The way a lot of
I mean, we know he's literally not a virgin, but often the virgin in these films isn't one.
Literally a virgin,
Even in Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah.
I also think she has that classic thing. He has that classic thing that the virgin often has of being like very, like we said with the emotions, the virgin is often the one who has a lot of emotional connections to the other characters.
That's true.
I think about like Sydney.
He's very emotionally connected to Beth, yeah.
Where it's like, this is her boyfriend, this is her best friend.
Tatum is her best friend, yeah.
You know, it's like she has so many links to all these different characters. Yeah. And I feel like Rob is sort of like, this was Rob's party.
Yeah.
People are there for Rob.
For Rob, yeah. This is my brother's fiance.
Yeah, like you can sort of, this is my best friend.
Yeah.
You know, this is the woman I love. You can like kind of explain everybody through him.
Through him, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of gives him main character energy, which the virgin kind of tends to be.
Yeah, because it's the final girl,
But although what the final girl often also has is, again, some sort of like connection to the killer,
and
which
we do not get
in this case is the monster.
And this just doesn't have that slasher energy to have that part of it.
Yeah. So again, we're
playing. We're having fun.
We're having fun.
But back to what you said about Lily.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Okay.
Literally the only reason
again
is that her ability to walk and run for all night, right?
Yeah, honestly impressive.
And walk up all those stairs, at least some of which wearing high heels.
Yeah.
And just walking up the stairs, which actually her, Rob, and Hud all do.
Right,
Is, but like, that is impressive. That is an athletic feat, in my personal opinion. But also, like, when we think about the athlete, yes, there is, like, actual, like, athletic feats happening. But they also...
I feel like when we think of, like, the picture of the athlete, it should have been Jason.
Right, yeah.
That, like, all-American boy.
Yeah. If he, like, tried to run across the Brooklyn Bridge as quickly as possible, like, I could see that.
Yeah, like, I'm going to go get help for everybody. That would be
that would be very athletic of him. Yeah, because that's also something the athlete does. Is like the athlete is like the one who acts.
Well, that's
usually
the thing,
first.
That made me think of Marlena, because I'm not sure if Lily is ever the one who really acts first.
Right.
But Marlena, like I said, I think she's the first. I think she gets the first kill when she saves Hud.
She does
and
kill.
She is the one who like goes in and is like, I'm going to save Hud.
Yeah.
Lily gets kind of pushed down too, but doesn't get attacked in the way that Hud does.
Right.
So then Marlena steps in and like has some sort of whatever she picked up off the ground and like batters it. So I was actually kind of thinking of Marlena as the athlete.
I love that.
And I also, something that isn't in Cabin in the Woods, but that I always think of as being a feature of the athlete, is that the athlete is often somebody who gets the most damage done to their physical body.
Oh.
We kind of see that in a lot of things.
Marlena gets pretty beat up.
Yeah. Like, she gets literally exploded.
Okay.
After getting injured.
Oh, you have convinced me.
Nice.
You definitely spent way more time thinking about it. All I had was high heels.
My problem is that I don't know what to do with Lily.
I don't know what to do with Lily either.
Because, I mean, I think we both think it's obvious that Hud is the fool.
Hud is such a fucking fool.
And I think I did think about this more than you did.
That's okay.
No, but I think the other thing, if I want to be like intellectual about Hud as the fool, I think another thing that the fool gives us often, like besides for the quips and like, joking when he's scared, which the fool does.
He does, yeah.
The comic relief. But like the fool is often generally like kind of our commentator and like our audience surrogate.
Yes.
Like I think about that with Franz Krantz and
the way that the fool sometimes says pretty profound things.
Yeah, and really like is sort of seeing the genre awareness, I guess. And in this case, Hud literally
meta.
Is meta.
He's the camera.
He is literally our camera. He's literally our commentator. Like, we do not know anything that's going on without Hud. So, like, he is a very typical fool.
Very, very foolish.
Like, I think you could even see a lot of, like, Marty's character, Cabin in the Woods Marty.
Yes.
In how Hud is written. Like, the sort of jokes that they tell.
Right.
Are kind of similar in a weird way.
And he does act a little dumb, like kind of in that definition of a fool, right? And like, it's so obvious that like Marlena is not into him and he just keeps trying, It's like, ugh. That's a foolish thing.
She's like, saved his life. She does start to throw him a few bones, but then she dies. Like,
and
right
then
after.
she dies, yeah. And then it's over, she's gone and we never see her again. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But again, to me, what indicates a fool is like the use of intoxicants.
Yeah.
And they're at a party and everybody's drinking. No one's drinking
more than others.
Yeah.
So that one is a hard one.
That one's hard, but Hud is 100% the fool.
So then that means...
And TJ Miller is like is a great person to cast if you need a fool.
Yeah.
So then what does that mean?
That means Lily is the scholar? Were you originally thinking of Marlena as the scholar? Like, who do you put as the scholar?
Who's the scholar?
I mean, I was kind of like, well, Lily does seem to be the most, like, rational. Like, we were talking about the emotions versus the logic. The scholar tends to be the most logical one.
Right. I have a thought.
Yeah.
In the way that... it makes way more sense for Hud to be the fool. Yeah. But, like, in a way, he's the scholar. Like, he's
documenting.
He's the documenter.
That's true.
Yeah. But then, so if Hud were not the fool, which I do think he really is.
Then it would have to be Lily or Marlena.
No, I think Rob's the fool.
Oh, then Rob! Fool in love.
Rob would be the fool.
That's interesting.
But
obviously Hud is the fool, though.
But Hud has to be the fool. There's
and I
no
was
other
thinking,
way.
the first thing we see of Lily is the fact that she is meticulously planning this party.
Right.
And she is the initial idea behind documenting everything. She's the
true.
reason why it all happens.
Yeah.
So I was like, I could talk myself into Lily being the scholar.
Being a scholar, yeah.
But it's like, it's not great.
Right.
It's mostly what it comes down to is that she's a real like logical counterbalance to Rob's emotional part, which I feel like is often what the scholar gives.
Again, especially after Jason dies.
Yeah.
Right.
But other than that, it's just like, yeah, she just sort of seems kind of type A. I don't know.
Yeah. So, okay, I love this. I love Rob as our final boy.
Yeah.
Hud's our fool.
Also, final girl, the one who's always running into danger.
That's true, yeah.
Like, the final girl's the one who goes up, down into the basement or up the stairs or whatever,
Yeah.
If it isn't the athlete charging ahead, it's the final girl.
To, like, go face whatever the big bad may be.
Yeah.
I love Marlena's our athlete. I love that. Okay, so then Lily can be our scholar. And then I also really like the idea that Jason and Beth are splitting the role of whore.
That works
I like
for me.
that.
I wasn't sure about it, but it works for me.
Right.
And I do think that's, if we ever write our own horror film, I think that's what the conceit needs to be, is just a love story between the virgin and the whore archetype.
Oh my God, I love this. You're the writer. You write
it. Fucking write it.
Yeah.
I just don't know what the actual horror part would be.
Right.
You need to be my J.J. Abrams and be like, America doesn't have a Godzilla.
I will do relatively very little in the creative process, and yet I will give myself a big producer credit.
Yes.
What? No shade to J.J. Abrams.
Yeah, I'm sure he did a lot.
I actually really like his work, so I like J.J. Abrams. Yeah. That's so funny.
So this has been Deep Thoughts Shall Apply.
Yeah, join us next month. Spooky season episode.
Woo, already.
We're kicking it old school. We're gonna watch Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
Classic. Have you ever seen it?
No.
Oh boy,
I know the general.
It's good. Yeah.
And the like twist at the end.
Yeah,
so,
and
I know, but
yeah, it's gonna be a good choice for spooky season, if I do say so myself.
Nice.
So thank you as always to Sound Guy Matt.
You can follow us on Instagram at Deep Thoughts Shallow Plots, and also on YouTube. I've finally figured out how to manually upload more of our episodes.
Thank you, Katie.
That is going to keep happening.
Yeah, a couple places you can listen to more of us.
So we're all over the place.
Don't be a stranger. And until next time, you know who Superman is?